So, are you ready, Matt?
Whenever you're ready.
All right, start it up. Chiasmus. Is it really what we think it is? That is the figure that I'm going to talk to you about today. Here's a very well-known example. It comes from John Kennedy's inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Let's figure out where we're going in this talk. What's in a name? Talk a little bit about the name chiasmus. It's also called other things, or other things were called chiasmus. I'm going to give you some definitions. I'm going to give you some examples. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why you would use it. What is its benefit to you as a writer or speaker? And then, do you really want to use it? And then we're going to wrap this thing up, all right? So, why is it called chiasmus? Because the Greek letter chi looks like this, all right? But wait a minute. That does not yet make sense to me. So where's the X in this? Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I'm not seeing an X. To see the X, you might need to lay it out this way. So now, that and that are arranged in this X pattern. So that's why this figure is called chiasmus. But is that really a chiasmus? Yes and no. A contemporary definition, if we look at the current Merriam-Webster unabridged, it says this: the inversion of the order of syntactical elements in the second of two juxtaposed and syntactically parallel phrases or clauses. And they give as their example a Superman in physique, but in intellect a fool. Okay? So where's the X in that one? So what we've got is a syntax that goes noun phrase, prepositional phrase, and then we reverse the order. Prepositional phrase, noun phrase. So there is the chiasmus, and there's our X. So again, the inversion of the order of syntactical elements in the second of two juxtaposed and syntactically parallel phrases or clauses. But the ancients called it something else. The Greeks called it antimetabole, from the roots meaning opposite direction, anti, and turning about, metabole. The Romans called it commutatio, so it's this kind of an action. And then Lanham says chiasmus and commutatio sometimes imply a more precise balance and reversal, antimetabole a looser, but they are virtual synonyms. So given that our contemporary dictionary defined it that way, we're calling all of these things chiasmi, and that would be the plural of chiasmus, although it's actually not correct because it's a Greek word, not a Roman word. But, so now we've got to figure out what they do. So Lanham again, I love Lanham, I generally love Lanham. Lanham writes, the ABBA pattern of mirror inversion seems to set up a natural internal dynamic that draws the parts closer together, as if the second element wanted to flip over and back over the first, condensing the assertion back toward the compression of oxymoron and pun. So while I generally love Lanham, this is Lanham I do not particularly love because I don't really get it. But what I am getting is it's drawing things closer. I'm buying that. I'm liking the condensing. And then oxymoron and pun, they're both fun. So I'm saying compression and fun. And so that's all I'm getting out of Lanham's definition. Examples aplenty. We have plenty of examples. Knute Rockne, famous coach, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Circumstances rule men. Men do not rule circumstances. Herodotus, an ancient Greek historian. And this is my favorite. Your manuscript is both good and original, but the part that is good is not original, and the part that is original is not good. Samuel Johnson. So there we've got, just a really lovely zinger. So, quite popular with advertisers. Question isn't whether grape nuts are good enough for you, it's whether you are good enough for grape nuts. And then here's a luxury leather goods dealer. Everything for the horse except the rider, and everything for the rider except the horse. Quinn makes the point, he doesn't even call these things chiasmus, he calls them aponidos, and he reserves chiasmus for larger text, even book-length text. But one of the things he points out is that what you're doing is organizing a sentence spatially around a center, and so that was a useful piece of information for me. Books that Quinn says are chiastic in structure: the Abraham story in Genesis, the Book of Ruth, Hamlet and Tempest, Moliere's Tartuffe, the Iliad, and his own book, Figures of Speech, he arranged as a chiasmus. Others have identified the Book of Mormon and James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man as having a chiastic structure. The costs and benefits: it's clever, it's arty, it's thought-provoking. Possible cost: too clever by half, obviously rhetorical, going for the gimmick rather than the point. So you gotta be careful. So, where have we been? Like any choice, you've got risks and rewards. It can exist at the level of the sentence all the way up to an entire book. Over 2,500 years, people have used the word chiasmus to define different things. They've used different things to categorize a chiasmus. It's got both an auditory and a visual dimension. The name comes from the Greek letter chi, which looks like the English X, but sounds like the k in Christmas. Thank you. How'd I do on time?
I stopped at 5:38, but you were actually closer to 5:35.
5:35, I was 5 seconds over. That's gonna cost me, if you look at your scoring guide, that would cost me like a point, all right? So you say, this is insane, you can't like hold us to this tight schedule. Part of the reason for having the schedules is so that you will get it so that you've got densely packed as much information as you could communicate effectively in that time period. But you got a pretty nice cushion. You hit 4:30, you know, and you're good. 5:30, you're still good. So, any questions about what we, yes?
A question about chiasmus.
Yes?
Because I wasn't able to pay attention to the last part.
Okay.
About the books being written
Okay.
in that form.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
There are books where the beginning of the book and the end of the book seem to be mirror images of each other.
Structure of the
And
plot.
so, James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is one that, here's this middle event here. He's got this event that he's talking about here when he's a young child, and he's got this event that he's talking about, and this is the midpoint, and the two are mirror images of each other.
Yeah, I think that is, unless you understand that you're switching from words to sort of plot structure, it could be a little confusing.
Well, I was paying attention to the time because I wanted to see if you could go over it.
There you go. Any other questions or comments upon my oral presentation?
I thought it was excellent.
Well, thank
You make it sound like you really know it, because you do.
Well, one of the things, as I was putting together the presentation, and we can now